There is a stretch of water in Florida where the rules of nature stop making sense. It is not quite a river, and it is not quite the sea. The tide pushes salt water in twice a day, and fresh water pours out from the swamps to meet it. And in that murky, warm, tea-colored collision zone, two of the most efficient killing machines on the planet are forced to share the same hunting ground. One of them has been perfecting its ambush for over 8 million years, armored in bone and muscle, capable of crushing a turtle's shell like a walnut in a single bite. The other is a shark that should not exist in these waters at all, a predator built for the open ocean that somehow rewired its own body to survive in a river. When these two animals meet in the same channel, in the same 3 feet of clouded water, something has to give. What you are about to see is not a rare accident. It is a war that plays out every single year, in every estuary from the 10,000 islands to the Indian River Lagoon, and almost nobody is watching it happen. By the end of this video, you will understand why Florida's brackish estuaries are one of the strangest and most dangerous overlap zones in the entire natural world, and why the outcome of a fight between an alligator and a bull shark depends on something most people would never guess. To understand why this war even exists, you have to understand what makes brackish water so different from anywhere else on Earth. Saltwater and freshwater don't behave like two separate rooms with a door between them. They mix, they layer, they shift with every tide, every rainstorm, every dry season. In South Florida, this mixing zone stretches for miles along the coast, through mangrove tunnels, tidal creeks, and river mouths where the salinity can change dramatically within a single afternoon. Most predators cannot survive that kind of instability. A saltwater fish dropped into a freshwater creek will die within hours, its cells swelling as water rushes in to balance the salt concentration in its blood. A freshwater fish pushed out into the ocean will do the opposite, drying out from the inside as salt pulls water out of its tissues. This is why, for most of the animal kingdom, brackish water functions as a wall. But two predators in Florida have each found a separate solution to breaking through that wall, and their solutions are so different from each other that when they finally meet, neither one has home field advantage. The American alligator did not evolve as a saltwater specialist, but it carries an ancient trick borrowed from its crocodilian ancestors. Unlike true saltwater crocodiles, alligators lack fully functional salt glands, so they cannot drink seawater or tolerate long-term exposure to it the way a crocodile can. What they have instead is behavior. Alligators exploit brackish water in short bursts, riding the tide into estuaries and mangrove creeks to hunt, then retreating to freshwater pools, canals, or river mouths to flush the salt from their systems. This is why you find alligators patrolling the very edges of saltwater environments rather than living permanently within them, places like the 10,000 Islands and the Shark River Basin in Everglades National Park, where fresh water constantly bleeds into the salt. An adult alligator can tolerate these brackish conditions for days at a time if it needs to, long enough to hunt, feed, and return. It isn't built to conquer the ocean, only to raid its edges. The bull shark took the opposite approach, and its solution is one of the strangest physiological tricks in the entire shark family. Most sharks regulate their internal chemistry entirely around living in saltwater, and freshwater would kill them within days. Bull sharks evolved a set of organs, the kidneys, the liver, a specialized rectal gland that can essentially throttle up or down depending on how much salt is available in the surrounding water. When a bull shark swims into a river, its body slows the excretion of salt and starts producing more dilute urine to keep from swelling with excess water. When it swims back out to sea, the system flips again. This adaptation is so effective that bull sharks have been tracked more than 1,000 miles up the Mississippi River, more than 2,000 miles up the Amazon, and turning up in landlocked lakes and golf course water hazards that have no direct connection to the ocean at all. Closer to home, juvenile bull sharks use the shallow, silt-clouded nursery waters of the Everglades backcountry and the lagoons further up the Atlantic coast as a safe zone to grow up in, spending the first years of their lives in water so shallow that a fin can break the surface. Freshwater and brackish rivers aren't a detour for this shark. They're a permanent part of its life cycle, and it means that for months at a time, some of the same channels an alligator hunts through at dawn are also patrolled by an animal with one of the most powerful bites in the entire shark family. So picture the scene as it actually happens. A hot, still morning on a tidal creek somewhere between Flamingo and the Shark River Basin. The water is the color of steeped tea, stained by tannins leaching out of mangrove roots, and visibility below the surface is close to nothing. An alligator, 10 feet long, is holding motionless near the bank, its eyes and nostrils barely breaking the surface, watching a school of mullet working the shallows. It has hunted this stretch of water 100 times. What it cannot see, what it has no way of detecting until the last possible second, is the shape moving up the channel from deeper water. A bull shark, 7 feet long, following the scent trail of the same mullet school, using electroreceptors in its snout so sensitive they can detect the faint electrical field of a living heartbeat from several feet away. Neither predator is hunting the other. Both are hunting the same fish. And in water this shallow, this murky, there is a real chance they are about to collide. This is the part most people get wrong when they imagine this fight. They picture a duel, a deliberate confrontation between two apex predators squaring off for dominance. In reality, almost every documented encounter between an alligator and a bull shark begins as an accident, a case of mistaken identity, or a fight over the same piece of food. Fishing guides working the brackish rivers of the Texas and Florida Gulf Coast have reported watching bull sharks and alligators surface within feet of each other, while both were converging on the same struggling fish. And in one widely discussed sighting on Florida's St. Lucie River, witnesses watched a shark and an alligator come close enough to nearly collide before both animals peeled away rather than engage. That hesitation is a calculated risk, and the physical mismatch between these two animals explains why. An adult alligator relies on jaw-closing muscles powerful enough to generate one of the most crushing bites of any living reptile. But the muscles that open its jaw are comparatively weak enough that a person can hold an adult gator's mouth shut with bare hands if they get the angle right. An alligator's true weapon isn't the bite alone. It's the bite combined with the death roll, a violent full-body rotation used to twist off chunks of flesh or drown prey too large to swallow whole. On solid ground or in shallow water where a gator can brace against the bottom, that combination is close to unbeatable. A bull shark is built for something entirely different: momentum. Its whole hunting strategy depends on speed, surprise, and driving its full body weight into a single tearing bite before retreating to let the wound do the work. The same basic strategy that makes bull sharks one of the species most frequently implicated in attacks on humans worldwide, precisely because they favor the shallow, low-visibility river mouths where people swim and wade. Put those two strategies side by side, and the outcome of any real confrontation depends almost entirely on where it happens. In a narrow mangrove creek, in water only a few feet deep, an alligator has everything it needs: solid ground to brace against, limited space for the shark to build speed, and a bite that can clamp onto a shark's body and simply not let go until the roll finishes the job. Wildlife biologists who study crocodilian and shark interactions generally agree that in shallow, confined, swamp-like conditions, the advantage swings hard toward the ambush predator, the animal built for stillness and sudden, overwhelming force. But push the encounter out into open water, into a wide tidal pass, or a deep channel where a bull shark can circle, accelerate, and strike from any angle, and the alligator loses almost every advantage it has. It cannot outswim a shark, and it cannot outmaneuver a shark in 3 dimensions. Out there, the same bite that would end a fight in a swamp becomes almost impossible to land, and the shark's speed takes over completely. This is the real answer to who wins this war. It was never about which animal is objectively stronger. It is about which animal is fighting on its own terrain. Size matters just as much as location, and this is where the true danger zone for each species becomes clear. A juvenile bull shark, still confined to the shallow nursery waters of a lagoon or river mouth, is extraordinarily vulnerable to an adult alligator, and predation on young sharks by large gators has been documented in exactly these nursery habitats, where the very shallow water that protects baby sharks from larger sharks and open ocean predators offers no protection at all from a patient reptile wading in the reeds. On the other end of the scale, A small or juvenile alligator venturing too far from freshwater into a tidal creek is putting itself well within striking range of an adult bull shark, an animal capable of taking prey nearly as large as itself, and one that will not hesitate to treat an unfamiliar shape moving through murky water as a meal rather than a rival. The animals genuinely at risk in this war are rarely the full-grown adults of either species. They are the young, the small, and the ones caught outside their preferred terrain. And this plays out silently, invisibly, in hundreds of estuaries up and down the Gulf and Atlantic coasts every single year without a single human witness. What keeps this rivalry from turning into constant bloodshed comes down to efficiency more than fear. Full-grown alligators and full-grown bull sharks are not actually competing for the same meals most of the time. An adult gator's diet leans heavily on turtles, birds, mammals, and fish. It can ambush close to shore or drag beneath the surface, while an adult bull shark is built to chase down larger, faster prey in open channels, including rays, other sharks, and marine mammals. Their paths cross mainly at the margins, in the shallow nursery zones, and the narrow creeks where juveniles of both species and smaller, shared prey, like mullet, concentrate. Two apex predators sharing a habitat without sharing a menu is, in evolutionary terms, the cheapest way to avoid a war neither one can consistently win, and it is exactly why most encounters end in a stare down in the murk rather than a fight to the death. That balance is shifting, and nothing guarantees it will hold. As Florida's coastal development pushes further into estuarine habitat, and as changing rainfall patterns alter the salinity balance of these brackish systems, alligators and bull sharks are being pushed into closer and more frequent contact than at almost any point in recorded history. Fishing guides working the Everglades backcountry today report shark sightings in areas that were considered gator territory a generation ago, and the reverse is increasingly true as well, with alligators showing up further out into brackish bays than older survey data would predict. The brackish water war between America's most iconic reptile and one of its most feared sharks is not a rare curiosity confined to a handful of viral photographs. It is an ongoing, expanding collision between two predators who have each spent millions of years mastering a world the other should not be able to survive in. And as their territories keep pressing together, the murky, tannin-stained water of Florida's estuaries is quietly becoming one of the most contested hunting grounds left in the natural world.